It's about 6 regular commissioner court meeting, and we welcome everybody here today. We're going to ask Brother Joe Miller to give our opening prayer this morning.
You know, there's something about giving a preacher the floor that I'm sure everybody's aware of, and you just did. So I just want to say that from my own personal standpoint, I appreciate everything the county government has done this year. It's been a hard year. It's been a rough year. It's been a lot of work, a lot of good work done. But in my own great job. I'm really proud of this government and everybody in it. I'm proud of the fact that, again, in my opinion, that the court and everybody that is part of the court and everybody part of the Newton County government does what they think is best for the people of the county. And that's who counts. You serve, Jesus served, we serve, and if we're going to be Christians, and this government has served. So I want to say thank you. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, on us all here together. This is not church, but it is an organization that does its best to serve the people of the county. And I pray for a special blessing on each and every one here. And that blessing would include not only thanks for what has happened, but for courage, wisdom in the future, that what happens, what the county government does, will be a blessing to the people of Newton County, and that you will and may whatever we do be accepted as we work as servants. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Brother Joe, for those comments. Call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum here, and not as any guests here today are on video. I'll now open it up for public hearing if I hear any. Hearing no public comments or hearing, I'll close it at this time. And we'll have number one is consent agenda. And Commissioner, if y'all look over that and approve the consent agenda, I appreciate it. Then there's some noise in the background. I don't know where it's coming from.
I'll make that motion to accept the agenda.
Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Fum. Agenda. There's no discussions from the. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, opposed, hearing none, passed unanimously. Number two, deliberate and consider action on the following items. Number one, to accept and approve resolution on the office of the governor, criminal justice division, FY 2023 body cam system grant program. Ms. Liz Holloway.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Working on a second body cam grant. We got one last year for $25,000, and this opportunity came up again, so we're applying to extend, to add to it because we were limited on what we could do. And this is a resolution that Commissioners Court says that they agree for us to apply for this grant. And I forgot to bring the numbers with me. I believe it's just another $25,000 that we're applying for.
There's no match we got to meet.
This one is a very small dollars, and they may waive that because I've applied as a disadvantaged county, so they possibly will waive that match. And that's what I'm working on, trying to get him to do that.
So if we was awarded that, would the budget allow for the
Yes.
sheriff
Yes.
to come out of his budget?
I looked at that, and it will. Because last year's was no match, it ended up being no match.
I'll make that motion and we accept and approve resolution from the Office of Government Grant Program.
I second.
Motion been made by Mr. White and second by Mr. Benson that we approve the item number 1. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Hearing none. Pass unanimously. Number 2, discuss and appropriate approve resolution accepting the assignments and ratification of the agreement.
This is on the 2016 housing. You know, we now have Jackson Abstract as our title company, and they had another company has bought them out. And this just puts that with the resolution that they're changing the name at this point. We have gotten GLO to look over this for us, and this is sufficient. And I think Courtney looked at it also, and everything is good. We just need the court to approve it.
Yeah, and I think the discussion was they're going to do this first of the year,
Yes,
and GLO has okayed it.
yes, they have.
I don't know what it's been.
We did,
So
and
which-
I think we did get that writing, didn't we? I can't remember. It's probably in my emails or Mark's emails, but we did get that approved so we could move forward.
Your motion.
I'll make that motion.
I second.
Motion been made by Mr. Palmer and second by Mr. Hopkins that we accept item number 2. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. Hearing none. Pass unanimously. Actually in conjunction, but we got them separated. And number 3 is discuss and appropriate accept donation from Miss Guided from, and she's a widow of John Guided from the property ID 11319. And that's right across the street from the food chair right now. And what has come up is Brother Joe has asked me to go in junction with him because he's putting it in for a grant for a new food chair for this property. And we got Miss Guided. She has said that she's willing to give hers. And so number 4 is the person next to it says that she will sell hers to us, but I just need the approval on 2, 3, and 4. So, Mr. Joe, if you'll stand up and give a
Sure.
little bit of information on that also.
Well, I will definitely be there the first of the year to give an annual report of the food share, but let me just say that we're growing like crazy. We're a hub for the area, for other food pantries, for produce. We've had as many as 12 to 14 pallets of produce in there that have been distributed either Von Weir or Burkeville and or Jamestown. And the building, I don't have to probably tell folks this, has been there. It's in pretty sorry shape. Do appreciate the county putting a roof on it. It's nice not to have rain coming in. But the old building is woefully inadequate for the size, the amount of which groceries we're trying to distribute. That as we grow and provide a building right next to the food share, the current old hospital would allow us to be able to distribute more food to more people.
Helen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did somebody say something? Oh, okay, all right. How much? Did somebody ask?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I guess I'm hearing things. I tend to do that at my age.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna approach, we would have approached and probably made $500,000. But we've had supply chain, problems like a lot of other folks have, and so it's been less than that. But, this will allow us to have the room to be able to actually eliminate steps in the process of preparing food to pass out. The old building, if we were to, we talked about, the judge and I talked about at length, and Tech and I have, the three of us about what we'd have to do inside to be able, and there's no way. The building, the plumbing's bad, the electricity, you know, everything is in terrible shape. We'd have to remove work. So this will allow us to better serve people. And also intend to have a kitchen and a shower so that when you have emergency workers come, we could probably house 25 people, something like that. I mean, we couldn't serve as a shelter, I don't think, hold a lot of people, but it'd be 50 by 100, the size of a basketball court, and it would provide that and provide emergency services. So that's what it's about. I'm confident we can get. And do you have any questions?
How much that land's gonna cost?
Total of both together, 3,000, right, Judge? That didn't change. So it's very, one lady giving it to us, and the other one said it's appraised for like 4,500, which is generally low compared to market price. Margie told me, said market price on it be probably 10 grand, and we got it for 3. So
Now, what's the estimated building, the building?
do not have that yet. I'm working on it. So I'm figuring just a guesstimate, looking at the size and everything. I'm going to get grants. It's not going to cost county a penny. If we don't get a grant, it's not going to happen. But I'm confident we can. There are a lot of organizations that are out there that really want to help East Texas, one of which is Temple. And they asked Temple, now I got a small grant from them to put in a walk-in freezer, and it was the easiest grant I ever had to do. So we get a lot of grants, a lot of them require a lot of hoops and hurdles and reports, and especially government grants. But this was pretty good. Yep, it's pretty close, a $50,000 grant to get a generator. And that's not going to cost the county anything. And that way, when we have a disaster, we can stay open and we can still distribute food and we can protect what we already got. You know, sometimes we'll have several thousand pounds of meat in a walk-in freezer. And man, I worry about losing that.
Right. But a couple of years ago, I'm just asking, a couple of years ago, didn't we put the freezer, order slab, put a new freezer and all
We
that?
did, there's 45. All be together. And so we don't have to move it.
Don't have to pay to move it.
No. And I think on the walk-in freezer that's in the building, that's optional. I haven't decided it would be better to move it or leave it there. But I'd like to get out of that building completely. And it's just, well, it is what it is. So, but it is collapsible. You can take it apart and move it. It's not a huge 40 foot, it's 10 by 12. Good questions. Any other questions?
I have a question. Or is purchased, so what is the purchase price?
3,000, right? That's what she told me, and we haven't done that yet, but, I mean, it's a good price. And,
Is Food Share paying for that or the county's paying for it?
that's a good question.
So just procedurally, it seems like we would approve number 3, accept the donation until we know what our purchase price is. We wouldn't approve purchasing in case she comes back
And
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 says
that's-
it's $1 million.
I just lump those two together because it's associated together. We hadn't done either we'll be voting on them separately.
Okay, I think it's good to have them separate and you
We
can
will.
put number 3 and maybe table number 4 until you know a price and like what the finance.
Oh, no, she told me 3,000. I talked to the owner, $3,000.
Okay,
Yeah, and I've also done the same thing. She's come down, she won 45, but her husband or somebody had bought it, and she said, well, being in the county, I'll sell it to you for 3,000.
so just, I guess, I'm just looking out for procedurally what needs to happen, and so it needs to be in the minutes what the price is, and
Yes,
I guess. Okay, so like where the money will come from, just making sure we have all the ducks in a row on that part of it.
and I'll explain that.
Okay,
Physically, they're right to join. Together, it's about half an acre. So either one by itself wouldn't be adequate, and it wouldn't be adequate if it was somewhere else, but it's right there off the parking lot on the current food pantry. So it just adds to the compound, at least to what it would be right now, as long as that building is standing.
And we will keep exploring, even the actually repay the county.
And when we go to get a grant, in kind is an important thing as far as getting the grant. And anybody, and I would attempt to get, if not money from Red Cross, Salvation Army, whatever, at least support for it to say, yeah, we would use it for emergency purpose or whatever. Any type to get other organizations involved, of course, makes a grant easier to get.
Anybody else got a question? Okay, thank you, Brother Joe. The widow John got it from the property ID 11319, and that's located right west of the old hospital. There, I don't know exactly what street that is, but it's a temporary street at precinct 3 made for the food share up there.
I'll make it motion.
Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Fomby and second Mr. White. We accept the donation from Ms. Guided. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, opposed? Hear none, unanimously. Number 4, discuss and appropriate approve the purchase of the lot, ID 11279. That's owned by Ms. Virginia Welch, for the purpose of the new, food share building that, Brother Joe is, applying for. So she is wanting, $3,000 as it was explained. And, I recommend if y'all approve it, that this our land by, I don't know exactly what phone number it is, but we have 50,000 in.
You're talking about the, not the, you don't want to go down that contingency. I have to look at the budget, Judge. I mean, that's the first I've heard of it, so I'll look and, so.
And if he gets a grant, he's gonna pay the county back.
Yeah.
He'll get a grant.
Oh, I know.
He'll get a grant.
there's a line item that's for land.
He'll worry somebody. Until he gets it.
Got to be purchased so that he can go ahead and apply and tell them that we secured this land.
Yeah.
And it will go here.
I'll make that motion. I second.
Motion to made by Mr. Bomby and second Mr. Thompson that we approve the purchase for $3,000 on property ID 11279 for Mr. Virginia Welch for the purpose of the food share building for Newton Food Share. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Number 5 is a presentation by Charles E. Reed and Associate for annual financial report for the year ending December 31st, 2020. Accepted. We'll just stop right there. So Mr. Milton, you on?
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, sir.
Okay. Before you have your audit report for year-end December 31st, 2020, I'd like to start with reading our opinion, which you will find about the 6th or 7th page in. It is on our letterhead. And I'm going to read this paragraph here. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly, in all material respects, the respective financial position of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information for the county of Newton, Texas, as of December 31st, 2020, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows thereof, and the respective budgetary comparison for the general fund for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This is what's known as an unmodified opinion. It used to be known as a, well, it's a clean opinion. It is the cleanest
Mr.
opinion.
Milton.
Shannon, can you cut that off?
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Milton, you got to back up. We had some disturbance, sir, if you don't mind.
Okay. The opinion is a clean opinion. It is known as an unmodified opinion. It is the cleanest opinion the county can get. Did you get that?
Right here.
No, sir.
So page,
We got some bad audio there.
okay, thank you.
The next section of the report, beginning on page 4, is what's known as management's discussion and analysis. This section of the report is the county's rendition, and it contains a lot of comparative information. I encourage you to read through that. It is very informative. During the course,
We may need to call him.
Shannon, mute everybody.
It's just when someone calls in, it's cutting them off.
Mark had to call in because he couldn't get in.
Judge,
Hey, in the courtroom, when I mute all, you're gonna have to manually unmute yours in the courtroom.
let me know when you're ready to continue.
I'll be up there in a second.
Which one?
You got it? Yeah, that's it.
It ought to be good now.
Yeah. Okay, we got it. Okay, you hear us? Mr. Milton, you hear us?
I can.
Okay, let's start all over. We've got some interruptions all through it, so I need to make sure the court.
All right. I'm going to start by reading the opinion paragraph. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly, in all material respects, the respective financial position of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the County of Newton as of December 31st, 2020, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, cash flows thereof, and the respective budgetary comparison for the general fund for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This opinion is known as an unmodified opinion, and in layman's term, it is a clean opinion. The next section of the report, beginning on page 4, is what's known as management's discussion and analysis. These pages contain a lot of comparative information, and I encourage you to read through this. This is the county's portion of the audit that compares prior year to current year. During the course of the audit, I was asked several questions by both staff, commissioners, and the judge. And at this point, I'd like to address some of those questions that will also help you in understanding the report. The first question I was asked, is there a difference between governmental accounting and regular accounting, say for instance, for a mom and pop radiator store? The answer to that question is yes. Governmental accounting, we have what's known as fund accounting. On pages 10 and 11, you will see a statement called Statement of Net Position and Statement of Activities. These two statements are more like what you would see in a for-profit business, whereby they contain the debt and they contain the assets of the county. These are known as government-wide statements. On the fund accounting, on the general fund and your major and non-major funds, on the fund statements, no debt is recorded and no assets are recorded. In other words, if you purchased an asset in a for-profit business, you would set that asset up on depreciation and you would write off a portion of it over a period of time. On the fund statements, those assets, when they're purchased, they are charged to what's known as capital outlay. So therefore, it shows as an immediate expenditure on the fund side, and then the government-wide, it is reconciled back to the fund statements on pages 13 and 15. I was also asked a question about fund balance. What is a fund balance? Well, a fund balance is not a cash balance. In layman's terms, we would look at a fund balance on a for-profit business as equity, which would be the assets minus the liabilities, and that would be the equity. In the fund statements, those fund balances are carried forward year to year, and that's what makes your financial statements balance. But again, they're not cash balances. The debt, we have an annual debt service, and in the fund statements, that debt is shown as principal and interest, and they are charged directly to the fund. In the government-wide statements, the statements that are in the front of the report, they are charged against the remaining debt, either due within 1 year or over a long-term period. And I'm going to take you back into the notes to the financial statement, and I'm going to get to page, I'm going to go to page 33. Here, we see the debt service requirements for the county. In 2021, the year that we are currently in and operating, The debt service for this year would be $747,044, which includes principal and interest. And you can see those going forward, 22, 23, 24, and 25. Historically, the county has not incurred a lot of debt over a long-term period. Everything has been financed on primarily 3 and at the most 5 years for what I've seen. There is no bonded debt to the county. There is to what you did have as the component unit, which was the prison. For instance, and I'm going to go to year 2020, the debt service for 2020 was $710,050. The debt service this year is $747,000. When you look at the fund statements, and I'm just going to pick an asset out of the air, the county purchased a pretty expensive grader and a couple of dump trucks. In the fund statements, those were charged to capital outlay, and they came directly out of the fund balance. On the government-wide statements, that debt is shown up under the liabilities as due within 1 year and due outside of 1 year. So this gives you an idea of what your debt service is by year. Another question I was asked.
It might be on his side.
Another question I was asked was in regards to some maintenance contracts the county has, primarily on copy machines, and you have a maintenance contract on your computer program. These are management decisions that the commissioners will make. There are pros and cons either way. Under the current maintenance agreement you have on your copy machines, it includes the maintenance to the machine as well as toner. And if you have a machine go down, that machine is replaced until either it can be fixed or they just leave the replacement in place. Same thing goes with the maintenance agreements on the software program. My understanding is without purchasing the agreement, you won't have the software program. Another question I was asked are in regards to grants. And you will find your grants back on page 56 and 57. Now, these grants, a majority of them, they start out at a 75-25% ratio between what the government will fund and what the county has to fund. 75% being the government, 25% being the county. Now, just because they start out at that, we have noticed my first experience with these grants were back during Hurricane Rita back in 2005. They started out at 75-25, and then they went to 90-10, and then some of them went to 100% funded by the government. So these grants can vary. Just because they start out at one amount, the government may come back in and change that and increase it and give you more. There is a cost burden to the county. As they start out at 75-25, the county has to come up with 25%. These are reimbursement grants. In other words, the county expends the money, they turn it in on project worksheets, and they're reimbursed for the money that you're spent. Now, we have talked over the last years, the county has had a history of flooding down in South County. We had a courthouse burn that we completed. I think that project finally completed, was it in 2020 or was it 2019? I believe it was 2020. Last year, we got hit by Hurricane Laura, Hurricane Zeta. We were still recovering from a flood. And then we still had some carryover from Ike and Harvey. So I guess the question that I received the most there is, should we continue getting grants? Well, Without the grants, the county would have to bear 100% of the cost. And that includes debris cleanup, which you do have a contract with an emergency service provider. At the end of the audit, these are the county's financial statements. The auditor cannot perform duties which would include bookkeeping duties, reconciliation type duties, and writing of the financial statements. So what we do is we assist in the writing of the financial statements. In order to receive an opinion, the auditor must be independent in all material respects. Independence is achieved by someone with skills, knowledge, and experience. This is called SKI. The county replaced a county auditor last year, and then we had some clerical type staff. Ms. Moore had a very difficult learning curve coming from the for-profit community into the governmental world. She quickly dug in. The county hired the services of Barbara Shirey to pull things together whereby the county's financial statements could be written and presented. I have not had any recent conversation with Ms. Moore. I suspect that she's going to need some additional assistance for year end coming up in less than 2 weeks. And I encourage the commissioners to give her the assistance that she needs to pull this together where you can achieve a clean opinion on your financial statements. So those are the main questions that I've been asked. There was one more that we're really not in a position to comment on because we don't know enough about your computer program to know whether or not that it is capable of producing any more reports than what it's doing now. I suspect it is, but again, we're comfortable with working with the Excel spreadsheets that we're providing. It does show that the county can write basic financial statements, and then we were able to compile these statements. So moving on to page 10 and 11. These are what I referred to back in my initial comments as the government-wide financial statements. These look more like a for-profit business that you're accustomed to seeing in the outside world. A comment on these statements, the cash decreased by approximately $2,400,000 in the governmental activities. The second column you see there is the business type activities, which is comprised of your component unit, which is the prison, and an enterprise fund, which is a fund that the county carries, whereby any revenue that the prison were to pay the county would be accounting for. The prison hasn't had any revenue in quite a number of years, but it still is an enterprise fund to the county. For the current year, my understanding is the county has closed on the acquisition of the prison. That component unit and the enterprise fund will need to come off of the county's books and then be rebooked as a county asset because you now own it. When I told you that the cash was down $2,400,000, if you recall, I told you that the grants, the ones that I looked at, the hazard mitigation grants and the CDBG grants, were 75-25% splits. You will notice that the accounts receivable, which would be the third line down, are $1,487,000. Last year, they were $133,000 for a difference of $1,354,000. That money should have come back into the county in the early months of 2021. The next section, you'll see your assets. and you'll see total assets of 21,052,889. In prior years, they were 21,351,739. Very little change. Deferred outflows and resources. You have a pension plan with the county system. This is whereby the county, if everyone retired as of today's date, would have to come up with a certain amount of money. And that you will see down on deferred inflows resources, 461,000 last year, 354. That is not really a number that you have any control over. This is something that PCDRS furnishes to the county, and it is required to be shown on your financial statements. Overall, the governmental fund balance was $8,160,644. In prior year, it was $6,723,655. That was unrestricted. So you see the total of the net position of 18,609,661. That in the for-profit world would be known as the balance sheet. On page 11, the statement of activities. In the for-profit world, this would be known as the income statement. You will notice that in the governmental world, expenditures are shown first with revenues shown second. The biggest difference in these statements from prior year is if you look under the column that says program-specific capital grants. These are expenditures, $15,302,935 compared to prior year, $8,233,501. If you remember correctly, we talked about you got hit by two major hurricanes last year, Hurricane Laura, Hurricane Zeta. That was a primary increase in those funds, as well as something I've never seen before out of the government is they advanced you $200,000 against an estimate. And of course, that estimate was based on percentage of machinery use, a breakdown of percentage of labor, what it costs to handle that specific grant. I have never seen the government give an advance. You expended that money, and today I do not believe that you have gotten that. I did talk with Liz about a week ago. I was told that they are getting close to turning in that estimate, and you will be reimbursed that $200,000. Total general revenue for the current year is $9,986,481. You'll see that number about 2/3 of the way down on the page. Compared to last year, $8,849,973. So revenue was a little up. Now, a lot of that was grant revenue. And that's money that you expended, you got back. It shows as a revenue, it shows as expenditures. Page 12. This is your governmental funds. Governmental funds are comprised of the general fund, major funds, and non-major funds. So this is what I alluded to back where we talked about on these particular funds, there is no debt carried, there are no assets carried. There will be on the next page, you'll see a capital outlay. These are what's known as governmental funds. Your primary fund, of course, is the general fund, which includes the distribution fund, and that's where your bills are paid from. If you look at page 13, that is a reconciliation between page 12 and the government-wide statement, the one I referred to as the statement in that position. This shows the total differences and how we reconcile back to that particular statement. Page 14 in the for-profit world would be known as the income statement. In the government world, it's known as the fund statement of government funds. You will see that as statement of revenue, expenditures, and change in fund balances. And I'm going to call your attention to about half the page down. There's a line item right above total expenditures that says capital outlay. This is where you purchase your assets. And above that, you will see your principal payments and interest expense. This is where the debt service comes in. So they show as expenditures to whereby in the for-profit world, they show as a reduction of debt and either an increase or a decrease in the capital assets. The county operates historically by transfers in and transfers out. You will see those approximately 3/4 of the page down. Another way to do that is what's called due from, due to. So when one fund transfers to another fund, if the definition of those two are that if there is a chance or if it is expected to be repaid, it would be called a due to, due from. Otherwise, it would be known as a transfer. Historically, the county has transferred funds where needed, specifically towards individual commissioner funds, like the road and the bridge funds, commissioner special funds. And those funds also have tax revenues that are allocated to those particular funds. Page 15 is a reconciliation between the statement of activities back to the statement of activities on the government-wide statements. So you can see there that there is a lot of difference between fund accounting, governmental accounting, and for-profit business accounting. Page 16, excuse me, page 16 is your budgetary activity. The county budgets for its general fund, and budgets are no more than a roadmap. Budgets can be a deficit. You can adopt a deficit budget as long as the county is able to explain why they did so. Many that were not as sound and as fortunate as Newton County had to go out and borrow money to pay for debris removal, payroll, and other expenditures to bring their cities and counties back up to par. Now, as we go through the year, we amend this budget. We keep an eye on it. The commissioners keep close eye on it. I suspect you look at it, individual commissioners, I'm not going to say daily, but often. The commissioners in general look at the budget at least on a monthly basis, what is presented to you, and amendments are proposed. So you will see a budget as originally adopted by the commissioners, generally in August, September of prior year, versus the final budget of what things were. At the very bottom of that page, you will see where the fund balance comes forward. We show a beginning of the period and an end of the period. Without that bringing the fund balance forward, those statements wouldn't balance, nor would your financial statements. So the question that I was asked is it proper to bring fund balance forward? Well, you have to. There's no other way to do it. Just as in the for-profit world, you bring The next two pages are statement of net position, proprietary funds, statement of net position for the statement of activities for those proprietary fund, which are your business type activities, the correctional facility, the enterprise fund, and the component unit. My understanding is that those will go away this year due to the county purchasing the prisons. Page 20 is a statement of cash flows. And that reconciles back to the statement of activities. The county holds multiple funds that are actually for the benefit of others. On page 21, you will see there, it's called fiduciary and agencies funds. These funds are funds that various departments hold that are distributed to other governmental entities and other individuals. Just an example, the district clerk, there may be some mineral income out there that the clerk has custody over for a minor. There may be a lawsuit out there that the clerk has custody of some funds that are actually due to someone else that might be in dispute. The tax assessor collector holds money for various other entities in the county of which you collect taxes for, and vice versa. Now, the sheriff's funds, those are primarily inmate money. But again, they have to be presented with your financial statements because you are responsible for those. The next section of the report are the notes to the financial statements. When I personally get a set of financial statements in my hand, I first go to the notes because it's more or less a roadmap of how things are presented, the components of those financial statements, and how the county operates. I encourage you to read through those. They can be boring at times, but if you look down into the meat of them, there is a lot of information as far as how the county depreciates assets, how they record its debt, how they present their financial statements, what their debt consists of, what the assets consist of. A lot of good information, including the pension information, which I find the most boring of all. But you got to realize that most of that information is written by actuaries, and I don't quite understand how, I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy. I like black and white numbers. So I don't understand how the actuaries do their thing, but they do. The next portion of the report are your non-majors funds under the required supplemental information. You will see those, and there is a title there. These are all the individual funds that are summed back to the fund statement and also to the government-wide statements, each individual fund. Again, these are presented fund accounting versus accrual for-profit accounting. You will see those same terms in their capital outlay, principal and interest, and transfers in and out. The next section of the report is what's called the single audit section. When a government entity expends, not gets, but expends more than $750,000, the auditor is required to show those funds, the amount of federal funds expended, and then the next page down would be the amount of state funds expended. We also express an opinion on your internal control over those particular funds and the compliance issues. Each individual grant has specific compliance issues that the county must comply with federal requirements. Had you not complied with those compliance attributes, the government can step in and ask for their money back, and you would have shown them some question costs. The county is fortunate to have very few vendors. You select a general contractor. That general contractor generally subs that out. So when we test those, we look at the project worksheets and we look at the individual invoices that tie back to those project worksheets and also back to this particular statement of expenditure of federal awards and expenditures of state awards. This year, the county expended $15,310,818. In prior year, you expended $9,084,793. You expended $6,223,000 more, $223,000 more in 2020 than you did in 2019. Again, primarily because of the fact that the county got whacked by two major hurricanes, Laura and Zeta. The next page are just some notes to the financial to the statement of federal expenditures. And that concludes the presentation. I will entertain questions that commissioners may have or county judge. I hope you found that enlightening, the explanation on the financial statements as far as how they're presented.
Yeah.
He has to come and do this. He needs to come down and do this.
Well, we're regret we had some interference with the audio. You only get to the extent of the 100% presentation that you give us. Is there any way that you could actually have it recorded and sent to us?
Yes, sir.
Well, I would appreciate that because we was getting some ins and outs and we didn't get the full extent of it.
Okay, what is your pleasure, Judge?
I would, well, it's brought attention that from the commissioners that we'd like to have you in person.
Yes, sir.
To present so we wouldn't have the interference.
Yes, sir.
So is that possible?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, Commissioner, y'all have any comment, any questions?
They didn't hear it well enough.
Yeah, so what's their opinion of our financial position?
The question was, in your personal opinion or business opinion, what is the condition of our county?
We found the county to be sound. I know that you had some challenges to address regarding some appraisal district calculations. I don't see any upsets unless you have a major cash expenditure. As I told you, at December 31st, you had $1.4 million out there in receivables. So we consider the sound, well, you're fortunate. You're sound.
We're still getting a breakage in your voice or audio, so I think we should set up a time to where you can actually present this in person.
Okay.
And so is this something that has to be done before the first of the year, or is this something that could be done after the first, as accepted?
How about I coordinate with your assistant for some dates. Maybe you guys can talk it over amongst yourself when you're available, and we can make this work.
Okay, that sounds good to me, and if you'll just call Ms. Elizabeth and set that up, we'll most definitely be here to listen.
Okay, and we need to give a 3-day notice, is that correct?
We have to give a 72-hour
Okay.
posted.
Okay.
All right, I appreciate it, Mr. Melvin.
All right, with your permission, Judge, I'll excuse myself and let you get on with your business.
I'm thinking you're asking me for permission to leave the attendance.
That is correct, sir.
Yes, sir. And you are presented, you're okay to leave. So, all right, we're going.
All right. Thank you, folks.
I would ask for a tabling of item number 5.
I make the motion that we table item number 5 until we get a clear meeting with the.
I second.
It made by Mr. White and second Mr. Benson that we table item number 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Same sign. Opposition? Hearing none. Unanimous. Number 6 is to accept and approve resolution order to sell and transfer the county-owned surplus property for Newton County Detention Facility, Fayetteville County, Texas, for a fair and reasonable value of $149,200. This is stuff out of the prison that we've negotiated some commodes to sell to a different county for this amount. I think it's a very reasonable and fair value that we're selling to them. So I just need approval of the court.
I make that motion that we accept and approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion been made with Mr. Thompson, second Mr. Palmer. We approve the rest of the order to sell the transfer the county property, surplus property. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same thing. Hearing none, unanimously. Number 7, to discuss and appropriate increase the deposit of $50 currently being charged for the Ira and Anna Howard Civic Center. Been brought to my attention that the $50 deposit for return on the cleanup of the Civic Center, it may be inappropriate. They have a party and they said, well, $50 is a lot easier to pay than to clean it up. Then that throws the responsibility on my janitorial service. And of course, they're scheduled to go to each office. And for her to actually clean up the whole Civic Center, you know, puts a bind on her schedule, is going to different offices, cleaning them up. So I'm asking y'all to take into consideration of raising that cost to deter people from not cleaning the Civic Center.
How often does it happen? I mean, that it's left in a bad shape.
$50 won't deter me. Cleaning it up.
Well, you know,
I'm just saying, if you're gonna make it, you gotta make it worth its while. If $50 ain't it.
well, and Mr. Elizabeth will address that for me if you want to, Mr. Elizabeth.
It has
The Civic Center is being rented more and more right now, because it's my understanding there's not a lot of areas to use. It's booked quite a bit, and I've had a lot of back to back to back. A lot of it's over the weekend, and so it makes it hard on this day to get it cleaned up. We're really relying on one group to clean up after themselves so the next group can come in over the weekend before this day is able to come on Monday morning. The $50, as Mr. Comby said, doesn't seem to be a deterrent too much. There's one group, maybe two groups that seem to not clean up after themselves as much as everybody else. And so just to make it a little bit properly, I think if they were having to have a little bit steeper penalty, it might make it easier, because it is rented so much. And I do try and go over with them whenever they come to get the keys. There's several groups that rent it pretty often, and they know what the rules are, and they've gotten maybe kind of lax with cleaning up after themselves. So those are the ones I've really tried to talk to a little bit more, because it is harder for this day to come in and clean up and keep up with it for the next group coming in. We don't want them to find it dirty when they come in either.
Well, and also there's other organizations that use free, but they also take advantage of us not cleaning it up, and we don't, there's no expense to them whatsoever. But there is an expense to the county to have to go in there and clean it up, and then there's interference with the scheduling of cleaning the other facilities of the county. So we may not want to take action today, but I think it ought to take into consideration and ask more questions. If it's, y'all would like to.
Would there be a way to, if you charge more, to just hire an outside cleaning person to come in and just clean the Civic Center?
The conflict we have there in the morning, and then we got somebody coming in at 4 o'clock. Then that outside unit may not be able to do it in that time frame.
I just don't think $50 is gonna get nobody's attention. And if our employees, and if our staff is some of the problem, then they need to be talked to. I'm all in helping all of our folks, but they need to act right too.
The problem that we've had are with I've actually tried to keep up with it a little bit better, because she was coming to me telling me how much harder it was for her to keep the facility clean.
So we know these groups, correct?
We do. And
Okay.
so these groups are not paying anything for it. They are getting it for free. And so maybe if they had to put a deposit up, they might think about might clean it up a little bit better than they've been.
Do we know the group? Do we all know the group?
Yes.
Tell them deposit to them, deposit, I mean.
No, I'm not for that. I mean, they need to act, our people need to act right.
Yeah.
Our people need to act right.
It is not employees. It's not.
Well, what are,
I suggested warn them, and if they keep doing that, then they don't get to use it anymore.
that's what
It's not for
I
free.
didn't want to say that. I'm always the bad guy.
I don't mind being the bad guy sometimes.
Okay.
I'll share it with you.
Okay. I'm saying raise that to 100, and I'm saying the ones that are giving you problems.
Yeah.
Take the key away from them.
All right, I agree with that. Let's make that motion.
We're just gonna do that for this.
Or you can table it.
We're charging, it seems like all our facilities, we are charging a deposit $50 like a senior citizen. They'll either pay or they clean it, one of those.
Well, they don't mind forfeiting the $50,
Right.
but it's according on how big a mess and how,
Well,
I just got one employee that does the janitorial work, and, that's the Civic Center pretty good, and it depends on how dirty it is.
Well, that's what I was saying. If I was renting it from you and all you're just gonna charge me was $50 to clean it, I say, Judge, there's extra 50, clean it for me.
And that's what's happening.
What I'm saying, we're not gonna do all our
No,
facilities.
this, Civic Center.
Change it to 100. Take the keys away from the ones you know is a problem.
Okay.
Make the motion.
You can only be so good for so long. And then they start taking advantage of it.
I make the motion that we increase the deposit fee on the Iris and Howard Civic Center from $50 to $100 as of today.
I second that.
Motion made by Mr. White and second by Mr. Benson that we increase the cost of the deposit for the Civic Center from $50 to $100, effective immediately.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. There's no objection, so we'll approve unanimously. Number 8, discuss and appropriate approve the budget amendment for economic in the amount of $210,000. Ms. Moore.
Okay, in September, it was approved to receive this donation from SRA for $210,000. It wasn't approved to have a budget amendment at that point. We have to go back and do a budget amendment because there has been some transactions against that money that has been sent out, so we need to make sure to get our books up to date. So, and from what I'm understanding, that this is, the transactions have to remain confidential. It's economical development coming into the area. Confidential. So I'm sure you commissioners know what that is, and I'm asking for approval to get the budget amendment for the books.
I'll make that motion.
Second. There you
Motion been made by Mr. Thompson, second by Mr. White. We approve the budget amendment for economic development from the Sabine River Authority in the amount of $210,000. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, unanimously. Number 9, discuss and approve personalized dedicated benches. Dixon Cooper and Carolyn Kahn Bruce at the Cade Building in Burkeville, Texas. I would recommend to the court that we table that motion. Or table that item.
I'll make the motion. Table it. Item number
9.
9.
I second.
Motion been made by Mr. White and second by Mr. Thompson that we table item number 9. If there's any discussion. Hear none, unanimously. Number 10, discuss and appropriate consider section 3 requirement for TXCDBG grant fund through U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And I think that's going to be presented by Liz or Kristen.
I think Mark's on too.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna, he had to attend a funeral later this afternoon, so he wasn't able to come in person. So he asked, should have these slides, I think, in your packet or on your iPad. But one of with these federal grants that are passed down from HUD to, some of them come through the Texas Department of Agriculture, some of them come through the General Land Office. There's the obvious goal of that it brings infrastructure improvements, housing improvements to the communities, but kind of a secondary goal of these grants that HUD has is to also create jobs for the community, specifically for low income and very low income residents and businesses. And this is otherwise known as Section 3. And this is not a new program that HUD has. They have revamped it a little bit within the last year or so. And one of those new requirements is that TVA has asked us to present, that information to the local governing bodies when they receive one of their grants through them. And it's just an effort to just to make the communities more aware that this is a program and that this is a goal of these federal grants. And as you know, you recently received a TVA grant for street improvements in the amount of $275,000. Precincts 1 through 3 is forced accounts, so section 3 actually will apply in that case, but for precinct 4 that's going to be contracted out, it will apply in that situation. And so one of the things that it means by section 3 to help with that is that you want to make sure that section 3 businesses and section 3 residents are aware of these programs. And so in addition to the newspaper ads and to the that we send out this information to, that these residents are registered or the businesses are registered, that they kind of get that extra little bit of a notification. There's also signage that we put out either here at the courthouse and then at the work site, so if anybody just happens to come upon it. There's several different ways that a company can, or an individual can qualify as a section 3 business. And the businesses can be owned by a low-income person. They can be owned by a section 8 assisted housing resident, or 75% of all labor hours for that business are performed by low-income workers. With anybody or whatever, they can go and register it on HUD's website so that they can also be notified of these projects to give them that little bit of extra advantage. And I think that's about the extent of it. Is there any questions about
So our businesses can apply for this? Our little small businesses?
Well, if they,
Or is it just a county project?
it's still just a county project.
Okay.
But it kind of just, and really there's no advantage, I guess, to those. Outside track that they reached that group of people. So.
Okay.
So is that audited annually, or how do they actually track it? How would we know where we stand as far as whether we've fallen short or meeting those desires or goals?
And I think that is a little bit why this program has been revamped, is because it has been kind of traditionally a little bit difficult to track, because we rely on they hire anybody for the project, especially locally. And did they check to see if that person was a low income person? So we have to rely on them. And hopefully some of this new program will make it hopefully it will be a little bit easier to track, but I think it is still, that's part of the challenge of the program as far as tracking it.
Okay.
They don't have to hire.
It's just, it's one of those things that if they are going to hire somebody and they can find someone that's qualified that would meet those requirements, then, it's just an added benefit, but there's not an actual requirement. I mean, it's more of a goal than a requirement.
You gotta make a motion for that?
Yeah.
I make it.
I second.
And that's more of, it's TDA that's kind of required that to be on the agenda. They want to know that we presented it,
But it's really no benefit. It's really no benefit. No, nothing. No, nobody for them. I mean, they the only ones going to benefit anything out of it. Then there'll be some way of tracking it. Yeah.
Okay. Motion been made, Mr. Fomby, and second, Mr. Thompson, that we have considered, what was presented to us, and we approve of that. Section 3, requirement of TX, CDBG grant funding through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition, same. Hearing none, 100%. Consideration on resolution designating authorized signatures for the contractual documents for requesting funds participating in the Texas Community Development Block Grant Program TX CDBG contract number 22-082-0718-D220.
This is just the signatory pages that you do at the beginning of every grant, just so that kind of says who can sign.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion been made, Mr. Palmer, and second, Mr. Benson. We accept the item number 11. Any discussion?
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. Opposition, same sign. Hearing none, unanimously. Number 12, discuss and appropriate consider action on the resolution adopting or in conjunction with Texas Development, the Community Development Grant Program TXCDBG contract number 22-082-18-018-D220.
Once again, it's sort of the standard forms that you usually do with any federally funded grant, just kind of reaffirming that you support some of your goals as far as citizen participation, the Section 3 policy, and those different aspects of the civil rights.
I make the motion that we consider the action and resolution adopting and reaffirming the following in conjunction with this kind of block grant.
Your second?
Second.
Motion been made, Mr. Palmer, Mr. White, and second, Mr. Palmer, we accept item number 12. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None? Unanimous. Number 13, discuss and appropriate award contract of hazard mitigation action plan update services. Ms. Liz?
Sorry, just didn't make it to the iPad. As y'all know, our hazard mitigation plan is coming up for update June of 22. For the past year and a half, we've been applying for grants to get this thing. One with the state, the BRIC funding from 20, that we have verbally, finally, that we're going to be approved. We do not have it in writing. We don't even have a contract yet. They don't know when we're going to get a contract. Hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we went ahead and went out for bid. Y'all approved this several weeks ago to have a company to actually do the plan for us, because the BRIC funding, we just applied for a grant administrator application development, because we didn't know. We already applied to 200 grants. So anyway, with all that being said, we did the RFP. We received 3 submittals: H2O Partners, Integrated Solutions Consulting, and Traylor Associates. H2O and Traylor had all 3 of them had really excellent submittals. H2O, they had they do this a lot. Their timeline they gave us was into 2023. So we had to knock them out because they can't produce in 6 months. Ohio, somewhere up north. They've never done any small counties like us or small entities. They did really huge entities with their plans, so we didn't score them as high. So
also, they haven't done anything in Texas.
yes, they have done nothing in Texas. So to me and to us, when we scored it, you got to know about TDM to be able to deal with this. And we don't have time to train anybody to do this. So with that being said, we chose that they could have this done in 6 months. They're very familiar with our issues here in the county to be able to update the plan, and we've committed to jump in with both feet to get busy with it. And Crystal's going, oh man, something else to do. So we're asking for approval for Traylor and Associates at this point, but we're not going to contract with them until the first week of January, because we're waiting that we're getting this grant. So we can't actually contract with them until the first quarter of January.
You want to table it?
No, we need to go ahead and get it approved.
I'll make that motion, we accept the trailer.
I second.
Motion been made, Mr. Fahmy, second, Mr. White, that we accept the contract with Traylor and Associates for the Hazard Mitigation Action Plan update services. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Number 14, discuss and appropriate approve the 2022 County Commissioner Court date, set for the second Monday of each month. We've looked at the calendar. I think there would be one day that might be interfered with the maybe holiday, but all rest of them should be set.
I'll make that motion.
Motion been made, Mr. Fahmy, second, Mr. White. We accept the 2022 County Commissioner Court date set for the second Monday of each month. Any discussion? None, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hear none, unanimously. Number 15 and 16 we'll lump together unless y'all otherwise want to take one. I would not approve one. And 15 is to extend the COVID-19 disaster declaration to January the 10th. And also the Hurricane Laura disaster declaration to January the 10th, 2022.
Make that motion.
I second.
Motion been made, Mr. Benson, second, Mr. Thompson, that we approve extending the COVID-19 and the Hurricane Laura to January the 10th, 2022. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition, same. Hear none, unanimously. Number 17 is to pay the bills. Mr. Gary?
General fund, $548,805. $2,101.40. Road and Bridge General, $31,745.44.77. Road and Bridge Precinct 1, $18,651.43. Road and Bridge Precinct 2, $23,592.63. Road and Bridge Precinct 3, $21,918.83. Road and Bridge Precinct 4, $20,094.85. Courthouse Security, $533.79. $78.92. Commissioner Special Precinct 1, $22,827.34. Commissioner Special Precinct 2, $158,887.04. Commissioner Special Precinct 3, $42,030.21. And Commissioner Special Precinct 4, $13,778.36. Record First Station, $816.86. Lateral Road, Precinct 2, $922.80. $0.50. Solid Waste Disposal, $14,682.44. Voter Registration, $4,265.48. Newton County Library, $12,278.35. Historical Operating, $4,005.52. Records Management, $71.50. Grants, $309,089.03. Civic Center Operations, $197.13, and the Technology Fund, $380.12, for a total of all funds, $856.92.
Your motion.
I make the motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Motion is made by Mr. White and second by Mr. Benson that we pay the bill for the month of October or November. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hear none. Remind y'all that we will have a special starting at 1. It'll be a workshop to start with, and then a special order on the redistricting of the justice piece, voter precinct, and also the constable. We encourage y'all to be here for that. We'll hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion been made by Mr. Bombi and second Mr. Thompson to adjourn, and it's 11:39. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Adjourn.
Okay.
I have lots of paper that are going to sign, so nobody go anywhere yet.